Hello, we're going to give everyone 20 to 30 seconds to go from our waiting room to the webinar. While we wait, we'll have a quick poll to help us determine the format for the next group.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. This is going to be our inaugural consumer goods retail virtual user group. Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Erica Demierlier, and I'm one of the Senior Customer Success Managers here at Smartsheet, and I have the pleasure of working with a lot of our consumer goods retail customers. So my role here is to help customers get the most value out of Smartsheet and be successful. So whether that be strategy, discussions, or just pointing you in the right direction, this is what I get to do every day, which is really exciting. So we have a lot of folks here that are attending from whether it be food and beverage or consumer brands, consumer goods, the broader retail spectrum. So because of that, we are going to keep everyone on mute, but you do have a little question Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So we have a few people here today that are going to be helping us answer those questions as they come up. We're also going to try to sprinkle some in as they are pertinent to what we're talking about today. So definitely want to make sure that you all have your questions answered. So a little more insight on our meeting today. This is a Smartsheet user group program, and it was really created in response to our users that were requesting a lot more opportunities to connect with each other, to learn more about how people are leveraging Smartsheet, and not just hearing it from us, but hearing it from people that are actually doing it in the field and using it at their company. And so I'm really excited today to bring this group together, and wanted to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your day, because it's great, and I hope that you get a lot out of it. So with that being said, we're going to hear from Andy Taylor today, and Andy and I go way back a couple of years now, and I'm really excited for him to show us, give us some business insight on how Young Living is leveraging Smartsheet. We will have that Q&A open starting now, and then we're going to go into a product demo from Cicero, our senior global trainer, and then we have other folks on the line as well that are going to help answer questions. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Andy.
Yes.
I'm so happy you're here.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Erica. How are you guys doing?
Great. Thank you.
All right. My name is Andy Taylor. I am Director of Marketing Operations at Young Living Essential Oils. Young Living Essential Oils was founded by Gary and Mary Young back in 1993. We are the worldwide leader in essential oils, and part of that is we actually own and operate the farms. So everything from when the seed goes into the ground all the way through to the harvesting, to the distilling process, all the way to putting the oil into the bottle and sealing that cap. We own that process, and so we deliver therapeutic grade quality oils for our members. We are headquartered in Lehi, Utah, and we have farms and operations in over 28 countries worldwide, and we sell oils in over 140 countries worldwide. Our vision is very straightforward, very simple: a healthy home for each of us and a healthy world for all of us. And we accomplish that by espousing the virtues of our mission. We enhance and empower lives around the world by sharing the unique benefits of nature's living energy, essential oils. So that's just a little bit about us. Next slide.
Sure. Healthy living sounds great right now, right?
It totally does. The message is resonating really well
Yeah,
with our customer base.
that's
Um,
wonderful.
some of the, so I started, like Erica said, we met a couple years ago, virtually on the phone. We started, and there were several challenges and issues that we were facing at Young Living. We have a very high touch customer base. It's really important that we maintain a steady stream of information for our leaders as we support them. And so we wanted to ensure that we had organized communications going out to them periodically. We also had a need to organize all of our IT projects into a single prioritized view. We needed to manage multiple seasonal and monthly product launches for our members. And then as I joined, I noticed that, and as I got initially familiar with Smartsheet, I noticed that Smartsheet was such a valuable tool that there were teams all over the company using Smartsheet on multiple different instances all over the company. So the solutions to those, first and foremost, we consolidated into a single contract for all of Young Living. We added, shortly thereafter, we added accelerators for both campaign and marketing to sort of organize those communications. And then we added tools to organize and provide visibility into our work with the calendar app, the Jira connector, data uploader, and pivot app. So those are some of the things we did initially just to try to get everybody on the same page.
One of the things that I'm just going to insert here really quick. One of the things that I've really found interesting with the growth with Young Living and leveraging Smartsheet, there were quite a few disparate groups that were leveraging Smartsheet. Andy, you found those people and kind of connected the dots,
Yep,
really,
that's right.
and brought everyone together, which is it's a challenge sometimes within companies to do that.
It is a challenge, but I just wasn't interested in letting anybody tell me no. Some of the work that we were doing was it was really important to get organized and prioritized. And so that
Right.
was sort of my sort of driving mantra as we started to put all of this together. So then in the next slide, it's just essentially how do we Smartsheet at
How
Young
do
Living?
you Smartsheet?
Well, let's get into that. It's pretty fun. In my trainings and interactions with teams, and in my own, as I am a practitioner of Smartsheet, I lead with 4 types of sheets. First is the project sheet. All of the data is stored in the project, all of it. I also create templates of my different types of project sheets, and I really actually, not only do I treat that project sheet like a simple project manager or complex project management tool, but I also actually treat it like a database so that I can, thinking ahead, plan for all of those little reports that are going to be generated. I'll also create an owner's sheet that are role-based assignments for different projects. So project sponsors, stakeholders, project managers, any of the folks that are involved with their projects. I will assign multiple or single to multiple owners across that sheet, and then I'll leverage the single select and multi-select for those drop downs. On the another sheet that I use is a helper sheet. I will provide all of the statistical summaries. This is where I use all of my sum if, count if, sum ifs, count ifs, my VLOOKUPs to just sort of summarize all of the data. And it really, the reason why I have a helper sheet there, it makes it easier to then target specific metric or specific sets of data for graphs that I'm going to put onto my dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also will leverage another sheet, which I call like weekly reporting. At Young Living, it's important for us to sort of denote the stuff that we're actually working on. And so we will put together, I'll do a weekly form. I'll send out a form, so I leverage the form leverage the forms on the sheet. And that weekly form, I will reserve 15 minutes on folks' calendars, and then they can put in their accomplishments, what's holding them back, and what the next things that they're working on. And so I can then take all of the different teams and put them into a dashboard just with their team and show their accomplishments for the week. And what I find is that the leaders and the executives absolutely love that. They know what their teams are working on every week.
It's all live.
It's all live
And that's
data.
a good thing. It's definitely for folks that maybe when they're looking at the helper sheet and they're leveraging some of our templates, a lot of times we'll find that helper sheet being called a metric sheet as well, just for folks on the phone that are leveraging Smartsheet templates. A lot of times that will be a part of it as well.
Yep. Yeah. And well, I agree. It's a metric sheet or a statistics roll-up sheet, or you can call it whatever you want to. I lumped it into a bucket of a helper sheet. It's just really it's that metadata in between your project sheets and templates, and then what's going to be displayed on your dashboard. So we start with a sheet. Then, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to go next slide, but go ahead, ask your question.
I was going to ask, so when you have your owner's sheets and their role-based assignments, so are you leveraging current user on those dashboards, or are you the current user visualization?
Yes, I'm using the current user on the dashboard itself via the report. Yes, I am doing that.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Thanks. We have actually a question from Sharon on the Q&A, and she was curious as to why you chose Smartsheet over Excel for a lot of these functions.
It's such a great question. It is a really great question. And initially, as I would train different teams, I would actually lead in with, it's like Excel, but on steroids. The reason why I use Smartsheet over Excel is I'm able to do, it's the interconnected play between the sheets. So I can connect sheets across using those equations that I mentioned via the cell linking. And then I can take a summary of multiple sheets, and then that becomes the basis of a report that I put onto a dashboard. So it is very Excel-like. There's no question. It gives all of the same benefits, all of the same equations as Excel, but it gives you that in an interconnected way. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but I'll just tease this out. If I change something on a dashboard, or if I actually change something on a report, it changes it in the sheet. If I change it in the sheet, it changes it in the report and the dashboard. It's a real-time interconnected framework that I leverage every day, every minute of every day in Smartsheet. Good question.
Great. And I might save this. I actually just saw this question pop up, and maybe we can save this for the end of a couple of easy tips to de-stress with essential oil is what somebody wants to know about. So maybe we can save that one for the end.
Sure.
You have some particular oils that you would suggest.
I have oils that I've brought into my life after I'm new to oils when it came to Young Living. But me and my family, we use the oils. We love them.
Great. Okay, we'll save that one for the end.
Sure. Okay, so it starts with the sheet, and then we go to the dashboard. And I do what I call a placemat style of dashboard. And there really are two purposes of these dashboards. And we're going to get into this notion of intentional design in a minute here, but I have dashboards that are designed to be seen by executives and leaders. And then I have dashboards that are designed to be more like worksheets for stakeholders and contributors. And the way that I do that is I will create a designed placemat where I'll have like menu items across the top. And those menu items are clickable images that go to different dashboards. So the experience to the person looking at it, it looks all like one experience, but there may be anywhere from 6 to 15 different actual dashboards that are associated with this interconnected integrated menu system. And so again, two purposes. An intentional design, I'll build out dashboards for the executives and leaders to demonstrate the type of summary information on the ongoing projects in a single glance, kind of have everything at your fingertips. And then for the stakeholders and contributors, I'll think through creating sort of a worksheet environment. What's the actions that I want them to take? And sort of building out that framework of here's what your work is right now, having the right information at the right time at the fingertips of the person actually looking at the dashboard.
I love that. And you used my favorite word when we're talking about Smartsheet, which is intentional. I know I've actually got a couple of my customers here on the line today, and I'm sure they've heard me say it because it's the word of the day when you're talking to Erica, but being intentional within Smartsheet because you have a specific audience in mind with this dashboard. I love it.
Yep,
It's
I do.
you.
That's exactly how I think. And that, yeah, I mean, I'll talk about this later, but the whole idea is that Smartsheet allows you to, it's a flexible interconnected framework, right? I can present certain things to my executives or my stakeholders, and I'm not sure exactly what's going to resonate with those folks, but as soon as they'll tell me, they're like, oh, this is cool. And then I'll do more of that, which is cool, right? And I'll tweak it and I'll show it to them. One particular moment back in, I don't know, about 18 months ago, there was a particular executive that wanted to see something a certain way. And then the rest of the executives were wanting to see it this way. And so all I did was I made use of the right click, save as clone, and totally clone the whole integrated dashboard and made it just a view for this person. It took me about 20 minutes just to create that. But it's all based in the same foundational database project sheet, helper sheet information. So that I made that change there, and that change proliferates to all of the dashboards.
Love it. Love it. So a couple of things. We've got a couple of questions here from Janine. It looks like she wanted a little more information on your owner sheet. I know we're backing up just a tad, but she wanted to, she needs to reassign more than one owner. Do you have do you have any examples of maybe a couple of owners for your owner sheet? Are you leveraging multi-assign too for that?
Yep. That's what I was going to say,
Okay.
multi-select.
Okay.
What I'll do is I'll either use the contact list, which has everybody in your organization that has a Smartsheet account, or I'll use multi-select. Those are the two ways that I solve that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then another question just came in from Steve. Smartsheet can become a full-time job to do everything, to do it right. So his question is, how do you manage this in the organization, and is there governance around Smartsheet in your organization?
I don't really view, this is going to sound really weird. I view Smartsheet as part of my job, and it's actually not a full-time. I'll actually respectfully disagree just a little bit. I actually spend the time to save time with Smartsheet. So I will think ahead on exactly what I want to do. I'll already have my templates done. I'll already have example dashboards done. I created a demonstration workspace. I leveraged a workspace to create a demonstration workspace that shows everything that I've ever demonstrated is also in there, plus all of the stuff that I've put in there to show later. And then I'll just right click, clone, if I have a specific live thing that I want to do for a team or for
Save
myself.
as new.
So save as to clone it, save as new. So I spend the time to save time in the long run. In terms of governance, the governance really is about, governance is in terms of the data that can be showed or data that can be displayed. Obviously, you get good at Smartsheet, you're going to be asked by certain teams to put together dashboards that show sensitive data, be really clear about who needs to see that. And I handle that through workspaces. The governance that I leverage is through workspaces so intentional viewership.
Yes.
So it isn't just for all executives, it's for these two, right? Or it's
And
for
permission.
HR, whatever. Yeah, go ahead. And permissions, that's right, permission.
Right. Right. That's great. So wow, we're getting a lot of questions, and I hope you don't mind. These are great questions, so I'm just gonna pepper you with a few more if that's all right. I
Sure.
know we've got a little more information. So Nancy, hi Nancy. I know Nancy. Can you share a little more about your weekly reporting? How are you getting that form out to people on a weekly basis?
So I made this sheet that
Okay.
is just accomplishments, next steps, challenges, and projects working on. It's a free form, so it's just a text form. And then what I'll do is I actually will reserve a 15-minute weekly update your projects meeting request, so they can sit at their desk, and in the body of that meeting request is a link directly to that form.
Great.
So they can literally just spend that 15 minutes, click on the form that's in that meeting request, and fill it out. It's designed.
Okay.
I tell them, look, part of it is also the invitation. I don't really need to know everything. What I need to know is the most important things. And so that has resonated really well. And it actually, when I say to them, I'll just reserve 15 minutes each week on your calendar, they're like, oh, thank you. That'll make it so easy.
That's great. Yeah, I do the same thing. If I have an ongoing weekly report or form that I need to do, I'll actually just pop the link on my calendar and just block out the time to do it.
Sure.
Another question from Jenna. Do you have challenges with adoption across project contributors? So regarding getting data to display to leaders, if so, how did you overcome it? We're seeing people still want to manage their work in their own ways. Examples are Excel, OneNote, etc.
That's a great question. It's sort of a two-parter.
I agree.
It's a two-parter, and that's fine, Jenna. I'll answer both your questions. That's just fine. It's the eternal problem, right, of project managers getting information consistently from their people. That's going to be a constant problem. What I do though is through those intentionally designed dashboards, is I make it just dead easy as possible. I also I kindly say, hey, I don't want to have a meeting with you. You guys are already busy enough. Just take a little bit of time and do this. And it'll actually, and then you show them the benefit. If you show them the benefit, if you show them the strategy, if you go through with them the vision of what you're trying to accomplish and who really needs this information, that's always, in my view, that's always the best way, is just kind of keep them thinking of the vision, because we all get busy. We all get inundated with the minutia. And that's really how to do it. I actually love your second question. I totally love your second question. We still see people manage their work in their own ways. Great, wonderful. One of the coolest things that I found about Smartsheet is the flexibility. It works how you want it to work. I don't come in to a team that I'm giving a training for and tell them they have to do it this way. I don't. Yep. I never do that. What I'll do is I'll listen to them, what they're trying to accomplish, and then I'll pick and choose the tools within the framework that they could leverage in order to get their work done. One of the teams is our global communication team. They'll send out a holiday, or they'll send out a seasonal brochure of our products. They'll send out anything that is for the whole group. They'll send out those kind of communications. They were just not getting the grid view. It just did not resonate with them, that grid view. So all I did was I took their grid and I switched it to card view, and I added a category of date. So I just added the next 15 days as far as date, added the category as date, and then I showed them in card view, and they were like, I want to do it this way. So let them be flexible with how, catered how they work, and that actually solves adoption problems too. They'll know that they can use this product however they want to, or however makes sense to them. And that actually goes a long ways to solving adoption problems.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also your leaders are now looking at the dashboard, right? And so that motivation too is potentially that, hey, the executive team, leadership team, they're looking
Mm-hmm.
at this and want a live look. I
Yep,
mean, nobody wants to be the one that is not updating their stuff,
that's
right?
right.
So
Yeah, I will do that.
you
I
don't
actually
ever
will
want to
do.
be that person.
No, and that brings up that's a little, that's a project management tactic, right? You send out if a report is due Friday morning, by Friday afternoon, if it's not in, you send out the meeting to all, you send out you send out a reminder, a gentle reminder to everybody. Hey, so thankful for, these 6 people that have filled out the report, still looking for 2 reports from person's name and person's name. I know that if for the Young Living folks that are on this call, they've gotten they've gotten that email from me before.
That's great. So let's go ahead, and we've got a couple of questions of folks wanting to get a little more in depth.
Okay.
So we are going to have Cicero on the line, and he's going to cover a couple of tutorials. Time permitting, obviously, but so we're kind of high level and talking about how Andy and Young Living are
Yeah.
using, well, we're loving it, right? So it all works. But we'll cover some of that stuff as far as automation best practices and whatnot. Definitely reach out if you are working with a customer success manager. That's a great way, or if you have ProDesk, Pro Support, those are great ways to get over some of those best practices. And our help section is incredible as well. So let's go ahead and move forward here, Andy. You kind of spoke about some of this already, but I'll let you take it away here.
Okay. Yeah. Benefits, just the general benefits of the dashboards. As you're creating these dashboards, you can show a summary and then actionable framework. One of the things that I do is I do leverage reports intentionally. So I will take and treat a report as a subset, as an intentional subset of the information that is needed to be gathered. And then I will then say, so it's not just tasks due within the next week, although that's a good one, but it's also like of follow-up phone calls that need to occur. And I will leverage the time in the report. And so I'll in that report, I'll create a report that says, if this box hasn't changed in the last 7 days, then show it as red or something like that. Okay, so I'll leverage the conditional formatting. I'll leverage any of those tools in there to display the specific information that needs to be updated. Get it to really granular. Okay, so yes, the other thing, the benefit of dashboards is sometimes these sheets, the project sheets, can become big and unwieldy. You've got your freezed column that you're scrolling to the right, and there's 2,000 rows and whatever. Okay, sometimes they can get really big and unwieldy. And having multiple hands in that master sheet can also be a little bit of a challenge too. So the key benefit of the dashboard and those intentional reports that are listed on the dashboard absolutely will keep you can keep all those hands out of the sheet, and so stuff doesn't get messed up. Make as many reports as you need. Those are the benefits. There's no shortage of reports that can be made.
I love reports.
Yeah, I've got for some of our sales items, some of our sales revenue items, I have a folder in a workspace that has, I think, 150 different reports. And it's based upon like quarters and months and years and regions. And so if you think about that as a grid, it can get pretty big and daunting, but it literally is a right click and save as, and then change a little thing just change one thing in the report, and then boom, it's easy to make all of them. So
Right.
that's the pro tip. Right click and save as new.
Right. Yes. Well, and if anybody has Control Center as well with Smartsheet, that's
Oh
where
yeah.
you can do a global update
Mm-hmm.
and make it changes to any report, which is
Yep.
fabulous. Let's go ahead and move on. This is one of my favorite parts of your presentation here is, you know, let's talk about successful framework and what that
Framework.
looks like.
Yeah. The framework is everything goes in the sheet, all data types, all information that you would like to be gathered. And then I would also add here, don't be afraid to add more columns. If you actually need more information, add more columns. It's just fine. You can go as wide as you need. Add those columns, add the different data types, add your status, add, whatever it is, add your calculated metrics if you want to do it that way, that's fine too. But just add all of the data that you need. And then think about your audience. I've said this before, but really it's all about intentional design for your reports and dashboards. Think about your audience. What do the executives want to see? What do the individual contributors want to see? Organize your dashboards so that you have sort of that integrated menu. This is the roll up. This is for the contributor. This is for the folks in APAC. This is for the folks in EMEA. Think about how you would want to categorize the folks also, and then create the experience for them to make it easy for them to update. And then have them bookmark it. Have them bookmark that so they can get right back to it. Yes, and then think about the actions that you want your key stakeholders to take. Leverage reports and forms in order to do that, to gather that information. There was a question earlier about when you're leveraging forms, how do you roll out that information? The report that I have that leverages the information on the latest. So like in that, when I'm asking for accomplishments, when I'm asking for the next items, when I'm asking for blockers, what I actually have done is I'll create a report on the dashboard that only goes back to the last 7 days or the last 5 days. I give a little leeway there, but it only goes the last 5 days. So it's actually only grabbing the last item, and that's actually what's displayed on the dashboard. If I go back to the sheet, that helper sheet that has all that extra stuff on there, I can go back and run a report on everything that person has submitted for their reports, which is actually a really cool thing, because then the manager can say, oh, I can see what you've been working on for the last 3 months or however long you've been doing it that way. But the dashboard is only showing the latest submission from the person that has filled out the form. That's how I keep it prevalent. That's how I keep it top of mind.
That's great. So Tracy actually had a question in regards to forms and updates. The question was, do you only use forms for those individual updates, or is there other methods that you're using?
Forms and reports are the primary ways, and then phone calls and meetings and all of the other tips and tricks that we use as project managers.
Great. So there's a lot of folks at Young Living that have jumped on the Smartsheet train, so to speak. Let's talk a little bit about how the team has built that community. I know you've been kind of pulling people together, but it's not just you. It's Roberto and Amy and a lot of other folks. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So, but in the pre-COVID time frame when we're all coming into the office, we would meet monthly. So I really handled the community in lots of different ways. One of the things we did was we met monthly, and the design of that is I didn't want me to be the only one teaching people how to do stuff. What I actually wanted was other people to teach other people. So we kind of set up a brown bag. You come in at lunch on last Friday of the month into our conference room downstairs, but it could easily be done on a Zoom call too. And I asked people, I said, hey, that thing that you did, I want you to show me that. And I want you to teach me that. I don't have all of the answers. Number one, I don't have all of the answers. I want to be learning. I always want to be learning more about Smartsheet. And so I would give other people the opportunity to present. And then what that did was people were excited to show and tell. One of our folks, her name Erin, and I love. She's great. She's taken over all of our OKR. We use OKRs here. We leverage OKR framework here at
Mm-hmm.
Young Living, and I taught her like VLOOKUP. I taught her a little bit about dashboards and linking those dashboards. Come back 2 weeks later, she's recreated the whole thing and better, and
Nice.
she's got a better design eye. She was
Way to
awesome,
go,
and
Erin.
I could not wait to have her stand up and promote her and promote what she was doing in front of this community. So she was one of the first speakers at the community. The other thing is in the individual training. So because Smartsheet is starting to sort of be ubiquitous here at Young Living, and it has been for the past 16 months or so, I'm getting calls weekly, daily. Hey, teach me to do this for me. Hey, I saw something like your Kanban board. Actually, it's CardView, but Kanban board. And I was like, hey, sure, love to meet. Let's schedule a half hour, and I'll take them through and I'll teach them to fish. And so I'll show them a couple things, and then I'll say, okay, you bring this up. And in the Zoom call, because we're all doing Zoom now, I send them the link, and I'll say, you get on there and you click and you share your screen, and I'll teach them to fish right then. I'll show them how to create a new sheet. I'll show them how to create a simple report, and they're clicking the buttons. So teach teams to fend for themselves. And then I am not above using the whole, well, if everybody was jumping off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff too? I'm not above the peer pressure at all. And I will say, we're getting adoption in the US, we're getting adoption in global, we're getting adoption in Latin America and APAC. We've got teams all over this place that are starting to use it. Get on board. And the reason I have an ulterior motive, in my particular role, I report directly to the CMO. And so I actually need to have some of their information that they're generating. Because we're doing it together, I will say, okay, now show me what this is, put me into your worksheet. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cell link to this percent complete or this overall status or
Sneaky.
this. And so I will actually leverage the training itself to tie into the overall framework, but it just speaks to the interconnectedness of Smartsheet that we do.
So that actually leads into a question that we got from Anthony, who was asking what key attributes of a project do you have on every single project? Because in order for you to do some of that reporting and cell linking, well, not so much cell linking, but really making sure that you have these key points in every single project. I mean, you're doing most of that overview, right? And initially, but what are the things that will always be there
Percent
at Young
complete.
Living?
Yeah, percent complete, red, yellow, green status, and then a latest comments box. But I don't care how they get there. That percent complete, that can be a sum. That can be an average sum of percents coming in. That can be count of check boxes, is Boolean or is not, right? I don't care how they do it. Don't. And you know what? And don't tell them they have to do it away. Let them figure it out. That goes to the adoption. Let them figure it out. One of our HR guys, brilliant at Excel, put in this long, convoluted, concatenated, wonderful. It was great. And it was right. It was right.
Right.
The number that he spit out was right. And
well, that's half the battle, right?
That's half the battle. And then I got him on Teams like maybe 2 weeks later, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. First off, awesome way to leverage the framework. Helper sheet. Let me give you a little help. Just helper sheet. And he went, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that?
Nice.
But that's okay. He did it. He figured it out. And the more to the point, he then knows how to Smartsheet. Let them do it how they want to. Let them figure it out. Because at the end of the day, I want them to think. I don't want to force them to think a certain way. I want them to think how they want to think and do what they need for their team. So
that's great. And truly, I mean, that's when I always call it that aha moment where people, sometimes you have to go the hard way to then appreciate the quick and easy steps that you can take.
Yeah, that's true
right?
too. That's very true.
So let's go ahead and move on. We're just getting a ton of questions, which I love, but we definitely want to make sure we help people simplify,
Yeah,
and
this
that's
is
what this next piece is about.
yeah, this is it, really this is what we've done. These are all the different aspects. We started with just a sheet, and I spent a whole weekend on that sheet just learning how to indent, how to roll up to a percent complete, um, and I just did that. So then that is from that we've turned into, these are all of the things that we've done to simplify using Smartsheet. We do simple project management. We do task management using sort of at a thematic and epic level tracking. I don't necessarily use a sheet just to indent and use it as a project. Sometimes a line is a theme, and it has a start date and an end date and a status. And so that resonates really, really well with folks that are like our product managers. They don't necessarily want to see a Gantt chart. Sometimes their eyes glaze over when you show a product manager a Gantt chart. So I said, okay, fine, it's just one line, and it's more at a theme level or an epic level tracking.
Gotcha.
Process management using card view as kind of a Kanban board. We've leveraged that specific process in our pandemic and COVID tracking as our people department are working with folks at our companies, and all
Hmm.
companies have made something like this.
Yep. Yep.
And then campaign management with accelerators. Thank you so much to the wonderful folks at the Smartsheet Consulting Services that helped us put together the campaign management stuff for our U.S. communications team. For executive reporting, it's that placemat framework. Surveys,
Yep.
forms. We do surveys. We do everything with form. Everything. So much is accomplished with forms.
Well,
The
and with
status reporting, and then of course a couple of things that we use all the time is Smartsheet calendar app, and I will publish that so that it can be shown on dashboards. And
that
then
was a question I was
go ahead.
actually going to ask you was with the campaign management, and I apologize, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
It's fine.
I know that you have calendar, and there were a couple of folks here that were asking, calendar view. So you are not necessarily using the calendar view within the application. You have invested in the calendar app add-on.
Yeah,
Um,
I prefer the calendar app. I
oh yeah,
show
it's so
the
pretty.
team both. I
Yeah.
show the team both, and then let them choose. Sometimes it's just simpler for them to have a calendar view, but then I prefer the calendar app because I can show by quarter the product launches or the for what I do now. It's sort of
Hmm.
it's the high priority projects for the whole company. I'm
Right.
leveraging calendar app to show when those are going to land. That's how I leverage that.
And you're embedding those in each of those
Mm-hmm.
dashboards.
I am. I'm
Okay.
embedding them in the dashboard. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And with your forms, are you currently leveraging conditional logic?
Absolutely.
How so?
It's been
Tell me about
so
it.
much fun. So we have it's just fun. I geeked out about it, but I developed a talk track.
Hmm.
And I don't want to get into I'm trying not to get into any sort of details, but for specific COVID compliance, there's a certain amount of questions that we have to ask. And if they answer yes to certain things, then other questions appear. If they say no, then other questions could appear. And so that's how I'm leveraging the conditional formatting. But yeah, I was part of that beta and provided that feedback. I loved it. It was great.
Well, because Andy,
I'm in all the betas.
you want to
I
be in
made a
all the
point.
betas.
Yeah, I want to be in all the betas. Yeah,
And
I really.
that's something to really talk about as we get, as we're getting closer to our time here. Really, I have the best picture of you with your early adopters pin from Engage, and really wanting to, and you're part of our mobilizer kit. You give product feedback on a regular basis, because really that's how invested you are in Smartsheet.
Yes.
We love that about you.
Yep.
But also, I mean, this is something that's available to every single person on the phone. So this is something that if you do want to be a part of taking action and you have ideas of how we can continue to iterate and continue to make Smartsheet intentional and do what you want it to do, that's giving the feedback to us. And we'll say how we can do that in just a little bit. Is there anything else here that you wanted to
No,
discuss? Okay.
no. I mean, the Smartsheet mobile app's awesome. It
Yeah,
replicates the experience. It's awesome. It gives folks the ability to look at things from a mobile perspective. It's great.
great. I agree as well. I use it on the go.
So answering the question, how do we Smartsheet? Start with sheet, then the dashboard. Think about intentional design. Think about who's looking at it, your audience. Use all the reports you need. Leverage the tools that you need. We use Calendar. We use Jira Connector. We use Data Uploader. Use what you need, and then build that community. Building the community actually solves your adoption problem. And then be excited to learn from your peers. I am. I'm always excited when my peers show me something cool.
Agreed.
I'll just leave with this last thought. I come from a project management background. I am a PMP certified, and I'm a PMP certified guy. I've been there for 9 years. And one of the things that sometimes project managers and program managers, they can say it has to be done this way. I disagree with that. I think that the benefits of allowing teams to work the way they think, there's just not one right way. Smartsheet provides those teams with the flexibility to get work done while providing that interconnected cross-functional linking to provide insight and visibility. So that's just there isn't one right way. Let the teams do it how they want to do it, and you will have no problem with adoption. And then just sneak in there and say, hey, and don't be sneaky about it, but just sneak in there, go to your cells that you need for information to roll up to your dashboard. Okay, that's how I handle it.
Well, we've got a lot of people that want to see that helper sheet, sir. And really what it is it's cross sheet formulas is
It
what you're
is.
doing.
Yep.
And that is all, all of you that are asking that question, you could go to the help section right now, type in cross sheet formulas, and you'll see exactly what you need to do. Reach out to your Smartsheet team. If you need additional help, we're here to help you. So definitely want to make sure that you're covered. That helper sheet is wonderful. And one thing that I'm just going to plug is that index match. That is my new go-to. I don't do VLOOKUPs anymore. I do index matching now.
Oh yeah, at
My
row
new
and at
fave.
cell, at
Mm-hmm.
row and at
Mm-hmm.
cell. Ah, oh, revelation.
I
That was
know.
awesome.
Sorry, we're
Yeah,
nerding out. Nerding
yeah,
out.
yeah. We're
But
now.
I really appreciate. I know that we've got a lot of. So currently, what are you? How is Young Living integrating with Smartsheet? What integrations are you currently leveraging?
So the calendar app, for us, calendar app, Jira Connector, Teams, Slack.
Okay, and you're doing your automation through Teams, or are you embedding dashboards into channels, or both?
I will embed a dashboard into a Teams tab, if that makes sense. So you
Yep.
can add in Teams, you can add a tab, or you can add
Mm-hmm.
another page, and that's how I'm leveraging that right now.
And then any automation going to specific channels?
Let's see here. Yeah, we have automation coming. Well, from the Jira connector, that's how we have the automation. But it just we're gonna leverage Data Uploader and start sucking information out of Workfront.
I love Data Uploader.
Yeah, we're gonna start sucking information out of Workfront.
Oh,
But that's actually the big grand diabolical plan, is to displace Workfront someday. But we'll see.
oh, you're funny. Andy, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking the time. I feel like we've got a lot of really positive feedback and questions. Let's go ahead and we'll make sure that we will, any questions that are left, you will get answers to your questions, because we have a lot here that we just didn't get a chance to get to. So please know that you will not be left behind here. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. Cicero, do you want me to go ahead and give you control?
I can just take it.
All right.
Here we go. And you should now be seeing my screen.
Yes,
So
thank you.
first, Andy, that was an awful high bar to make me follow. So absolutely amazing. And I couldn't have said better any of what you did, because it's all about the planning, a little bit of planning ahead of time like this to say, what does this dashboard say? What should it say, right? Is so important. Now, if you look at my dashboard, people were asking about some best practices and about the metric sheet. And so I'm going to jump around and kind of show you those things, okay? Now, in this case, with a dashboard, one of the things that people tend to do is they throw in everything in the kitchen sink. And when Andy was talking about the placemat idea, that's amazing, because it is, what do I see here? Okay, not what can I scroll down to in an hour to get to. And so, you know, by having all of these things here, it's a detractor from what I really need to see. So what Andy was saying is, make them have to go to somewhere else. Well, that's this idea here in the upper right hand side is exactly what Andy was talking about, where you can nest dashboards. And so by simply clicking on an icon, you're taking them to somewhere else, right? To giving them those areas where they can focus to get that information. And always remember to give them a way back. And so they can always stay within here. They don't have to rely on the browser to go back and forth around things, but you're keeping them in Smartsheet. Okay, so that's one piece of this. Another one, just that I want to point out to, because it's, I think, so important. When you're looking at this screen, where do you feel your eyes are being pulled? Right? And I can pretty much guess you're saying over here on the right, because there's all kinds of colors, right? Well, that's what we are. We are visual. And so unless this graph, this chart is not the most important thing, I shouldn't be doing that, because we need to, it should be consistent, and the important things should pop, right? Not that just something looks cute and it pulls you away from what's really important. So things like that, and it's all about the consumer, like Andy was talking about. Who is this dashboard for, right? What do they really want? Now, another thing that he was talking about were those metrics. Well, the metric sheet, the roll-up sheet, the helper sheet can drive things like what you're going to see here. I've got a ThoughtWorks. This is a dashboard that if I click on it, is always about the most important sales. The company that is buying the most from us, boom, it's there. And that all gets driven by things like this. Here's an example of what I use for a metric sheet. And you notice that I've got a number of different areas here set up for charts. I can color code areas so that I can even know this comes from this sheet, this comes from this sheet. And if I hand this off to somebody, it's very easy for them to understand where all of this is broken down. And if I just click on some of these, you notice here that this is a cross sheet formula, and you can see sample data. That's the sheet that this is coming from, okay? And all of that now ties those things together like Andy was talking about, okay? Metric sheets like this, and how you lay them out is completely up to you, because it really should be about how are you going to consume this when you're making your dashboards? Because well done metric sheets make creating dashboards super fast and super easy, but it's the planning ahead of time, right? And so this is an example of using a metric sheet to then drive all of those things. Like this, you'll notice it says ThoughtWorks. Well, that is that top company. This all comes from those metrics. And so that's how we can start tying these things together. Now, another example that I wanted to show, because Andy was mentioning a lot of the VLOOKUP, and then Erica mentioned my favorite, the index match. And so I want to show you that. So in the case of this is an intake sheet. Well, in the intake sheet, I don't necessarily want to ask for people's managers or things like that because they may change, okay? But people like HR keep track of that. And so here, I'm gonna show you, I have a metric sheet, but I've got just a very simple chart of saying, okay, for this department, this is the manager. And this could be done by somebody completely different than me. But because I can access it, I have written a formula here, which is an index match, that is saying when something new comes in, look at what department it is. Now go to that sheet and put in the right manager. And then, because we have that in a contact list column, you can leverage automations to send them approval requests or
Yes.
notifications. So you're tying this all together, and I don't have to manage all of it. I can leverage other people managing their stuff, and if I can trust they're on top of it, my stuff rocks. And that's really what, how Andy was talking about interconnecting all of this. That's exactly what we're talking about. So we've got the index match. You could use VLOOKUP too, but I personally too agree. I love index match. The idea of the metric sheets, every metric sheet is going to look different, but it's to bring all of those things together and even do additional calculations against the aggregate of those things before you put them in the dashboard. So this is how those things come together. And I know we're running close to time, so I'm going to stop at that point, but hopefully you kind of get a quick idea of the metric sheets that Andy was talking about, the organization and the nesting of dashboards to give the people what they need at the right time. And then how that interconnectedness can come together using other groups to use their information in the sheets they're working on and put that all together in what we have. So there we go.
Super quick,
Yes.
Cicero, Dave actually said, wait, did he connect a widget to another dashboard?
I did. Let's go there. So
Wait a second.
So notice that, and I'll just use this one as an example, right? I have the icon on the left-hand side. Now I will say that placing icons consistently in the same spot gives them a better experience than having them look around to say, where's the home button, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, if you look, I'm going to go to edit, and here's my widget. Well, my widget is just a graphic. It's an image widget, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've leveraged the advanced options to say, take me to a different sheet. And it happens to be my sales dashboard. And so you can then do that. And then you noticed that, and I'll cancel so I can go there. What I've also leveraged is the icons. And when I'm on the sheet that I'm clicking here, I change the icon so that they know where they are. And it's just a real simple little trick, but it visually tells them information because we are visual.
And this goes back to Andy's placemat that he was talking about.
Exactly.
And he's leveraging those image widgets. Everybody has some sort of branding with their marketing team has got to have something for their website,
Yep.
what have you. That's the best way to leverage those.
Yes. Any
All right.
others before I jump into the slides for you?
Mhm.
All right, let's go
I
back
think
here.
one other thing just to note with why I think Cicero and I love index match so much is if anybody here has ever had a VLOOKUP and someone moved a column,
Yep.
it will trigger an error. So index match takes that out of the equation for you. It will always look for your column and what it's matching to, and so that's why I love it, because I want to take as many of the errors out as possible. So looking ahead to the future, we're going to wrap up. I know we're a little over time. So, we have a lot of different training opportunities. We really want to do more of these type of user groups, but really training you have on demand with our Center of Excellence and webinars. There's a dashboards webinar that was happening, a second part to our dashboards webinar today, actually. We have multiple integrations. We talked briefly about the Jira connector and Salesforce and Tableau. As well as Marketo and more coming. So templates. We cannot stress this enough. Those helper sheets that Andy was talking about, those can be found as metric sheets in a lot of our template sets. So definitely take a look. I'm a big fan of just leveraging, type up what you want, and really just poke around and see what would fit for you. Pay no attention to the name, because a template set might be for education, but you really want to use it for this. So take a look. So definitely we want to hear from you, and raise your hand if you have a story. We want to hear from more folks like Andy. And we touched on this briefly, but we love your feedback. This is how our product gets better and better, and it all comes from each one of you. So definitely give us feedback, and we have a product enhancement form that you can leverage and be a mobilizer. This is where you can get ideas. People were asking, how do we get our folks internally to be excited about Smartsheet? Join the Mobilizer program. This gives you a ton of information. You can order swag, and get those people to really be a part of it, of being excited about Smartsheet. And last but not least, we do have an early adopters program. So this is something that you should all be a part of. Give us the feedback, be in all the betas like Andy. And last but not least, I want to say a big, huge thank you to Mr. Andy Taylor. It has been a pleasure working with you over the past 2+ years, and it's exciting to see how much Young Living has grown with Smartsheet. And I'm looking forward to talking with each of you on the next one of these user groups, because this is just going to be a wonderful thing. And I really want to say thank you all for taking time out of your day and ignoring the kids for an hour, ignoring the pets and people, and really just being a part of this. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Bye.